Whew, that was a lot of fun. I bet you learned something new today. Well, using PowerShell could be interesting, right? If you've chosen MX Linux as your next operating system and looking to install it on your computer, then this video is for you. In this comprehensive step-by-step guide for the beginners, I'll walk you through downloading the MX Linux ISO from the official website, verifying its integrity and authenticity using Windows PowerShell, and flashing it onto a USB stick with Rufus, and then finally installing it on your computer. I'll explain each step in detail so you know what to do. So let's get started, but before we start, if you're first time to the channel, take a second to click the subscribe button. And if you like this content and my work and would like to support the channel, please check out the support links in the description. And if you like this video, please support with a like. I appreciate it very much. Let's get started. So for this installation, we're gonna need one USB drive, at least 8 GB. I'm gonna use this 64 GB USB drive because I couldn't find any smaller ones. But if you find the smaller one, you don't need to have such a large USB drive. You can even use like a 4 GB USB drive, that will be enough. But 8 GB would be better if you want to create it with persistence. And that's what we're going to do as well. We're going to create it with persistence so that you can actually use this USB drive on any computer and you can save your progress on the USB drive. It's not going to vanish and it's not going to be deleted after you shut down the operating system. Everything will be saved on the USB drive. So the larger USB drive you have, the more storage it's going to have, and the more stuff you can save in this operating system on the USB drive. So 64 GB will be plenty, you can save a lot of files, but of course you don't have to use such a large USB drive. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with the first step, and first of all, we're gonna need to download the ISO from the official website. Let's do that. So the first thing we gotta do, open up any browser that you like and go to the mxlinux.org. Over here on this website, you can find all kinds of information about MX Linux. So if you want to read through it, you can do it. There are a few different types of MX Linux. The flagship one is XFCE, which is a mid-weight desktop environment that aims to be fast and low resource, but still being attractive and user-friendly. So this is the one we're going to install today. But the installation procedure will be similar for other versions as well, so it doesn't matter which one you decide to download, you can still use this guide for other versions as well. Let's go ahead and quickly check what other versions there are. There is also a KDE version, which is well known for its advanced desktop plasma, and it looks pretty attractive. So if you like the way it looks, you can try that one. And there is another one which is called Fluxbox. The Fluxbox unites the speed and low resource use. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the differences between these versions. We can do it in another video, because in this video we'll learn how to download it and install it. So go ahead and click on the download button here. It will take you to the download links. As you can see, the current release is MX 23.4. The newer versions will be released eventually, so the versions will change, but most likely the procedure will not really change much. And for the XFCE edition that we're going to download today, there are a few different options. One is for the 64-bit systems, and most likely you have a 64-bit system. If your computer is about 10 years old or newer, if it's more than 10 years old, you might have a 32-bit. On another hand, if you have an older computer that is more than 10 years old, you would probably have a 32-bit system. And actually, if you have like a more like a 15-year-old computer, it most likely be a 32-bit system. So this is great because they do provide this here, which is going to be the MX 23.4 386, which contains a 32-bit kernel. So this is really great because many popular distros such as Linux Mint, they stop supporting 32-bit systems because it becomes very much obsolete. But if you still have an older computer and you would like to keep using it, you would need a 32-bit system. So this is great, and MX Linux got it covered. So the first option would work on the computers that are a few years old. I would say probably like 5 years old. But since I'm going to install it on a newer laptop that has a recent hardware, I'm going to download the MX 23.4 x64 AHS, the Advanced Hardware Support, because this release will support a new kernel with new graphics drivers and firmware. And it is a 64-bit only. Also, if you plan to install it on a Raspberry, you can download this one. For the KDE version, there is only one release, And for the flux box, there are two releases. One is a 64-bit and another one is a 32-bit. So very great. So just choose the one that fits for you and click on the link. It should bring you to this page here, and then you just click Save. It is very important to download it from the trusted sources. That's why we went to the official website and not to some third-party websites. So we're just going to wait until it downloads. It is pretty large. It's 2.3 gigabyte. I'm just going to fast forward it so it doesn't take much time, even though it's only going to take a few seconds. Alright, so the download is complete. We can go back. Alternatively, you can obtain the MX image by direct repo. This is what we did when I click on the link. Then you can get it from the mirrors, or you can use torrents to get it as well. So just choose the way that you like. They all should be safe.
Alright, once we got downloaded the ISO, it was pretty simple. Now we need to verify the ISO for integrity and authenticity. Why to do that? Well, because when you download, it might not be downloaded correctly and there might be some mistakes during the download, so it might miss some bits and pieces. You want to make sure to check it out for integrity. This way, when we're going to flash it on the USB drive, it's going to be checked for integrity so that it will be flashed properly and it's not going to miss some files, then causing some errors down the road. Also, we need to check it for authenticity, and that is a little bit different process. This will verify that this image is actually legit and it's not been modified by any unauthorized person, so that nobody adds anything that is not intended to be there. Well, first of all, that's why we downloaded from the official website. So second step, let's go ahead and check it for integrity and authenticity. Let's do that.
So I'll go ahead and click on the Verify Checksum. Let's just go open the new tab. And here are all the checksums that we got. You can see there is an alphanumeric sequence for each file. Since I have downloaded this AHS file, this is going to be the alphanumeric sequence that I need to verify. There is really no need to do the MD5 and the SHA256, but I'm just going to show you both ways in case one of them doesn't work, and you might as well click on the signature as well. This one will be for verifying authenticity. Click Save as well. We can minimize this window. Just open the File Explorer, then find the download folder where you have downloaded the ISO. Hold Shift and right-click on it and choose Open PowerShell window here. This will bring us the PowerShell window, and then type certutil, then space, dash, hash file, space, then the file name. For that, just go to the download folder and find the ISO name here. Right-click on it, rename, and then copy the whole name with an extension. Make sure to copy with an extension so it will be a complete name of the file. Then right-click, copy. If for some reason you don't see extension, it might be disabled. Go to the View tab in the upper menu and make sure that the file name extension is enabled. Without it, it will not show the extension. After that, go back to the PowerShell and just right-click, and it will automatically insert the name, then space SHA256, and press Enter. There we go. So we have got this alphanumeric sequence that we need to compare with the one that's given over here. I know it's pretty big number, so you're probably going to have to write it out and compare it because it's so big and it will be difficult, but it's doable. So that's how you check the SHA256 checksum. If these two alphanumeric sequence match, that means that the downloaded file is checked for integrity and everything's good. Similar procedure will be for the MD5 checksum. Let's just quickly do it as well. So just type certutil, then space, dash, hash file, then space, put the file name, then space, MD5, and press Enter. There we go. I like the MD5 a little bit better because it has a small alphanumeric sequence. Let's go ahead and compare it to the one that we got. So it's this one here. It will be like half the size. And yeah, you can see it's 79 at the back, 85. So yeah, everything looks good. That means that the downloaded file is correct. After that, we need to check the signature for authenticity. To check the authenticity of the ISO file, we need to verify it with the GNUPG tool for secure communication and data verification. First, go to the website gpg4vin.org and download the GPG for VIN or for Windows. Click Save. Go ahead and install it. So just follow all the prompts on the screen. It will be pretty simple. Press Next. Just leave everything the same and keep installing it. After that, we can either run it or just finish it because we can use the command line, so we don't really need to run it. We can minimize all this. Before verifying the signature, we'll need to import the public key of the distributor. This public key is obtained from the official MX Linux website. And I tell you, it was a challenge to find it, honestly. Like, I thought it should be pretty easy to find, but I had to search on their website to find this key. Anyway, I have found it. This is the command you need to run within the terminal. So let's go ahead and do it. Just highlight it all and then right click, copy, or you can just probably press on this icon over here, then open the command line and right click. So we have imported the public key and then press enter. By the way, if you're receiving an error message GPG is not recognized, it means that the GPG executable is not in your system's path, so Windows cannot find it when you're trying to run it from command prompt or PowerShell. Here's how to fix it. First, go ahead and find where this file is located on your computer. Typically, it is installed on the drive C in Program Files, x86, in the GNUPG folder in the bin folder. So just go ahead and right click and copy address as text. After that, press Windows +R, which gonna bring us this command window. And over here, you gotta type systemdm.cpl and press OK. It's gonna bring us the system properties window. Go to Advanced, then go to Environmental Variables, choose Path, go Edit, and then you need to add this line. I have already added it, it worked fine, but if this line is missing, you just press New and enter this line. So that's how it works. Then press OK and close all these windows. After that, it should all work good. So go ahead and enter the sign-in key again and press enter. As you can see, we got the total number processed and imported 55, so we're all good. And after that, we need to verify the signature. For that, just type GPG space 2 dashes verify space and then copy the name of this signature file with an extension. Right click and space, then copy the name of the file in the downloads bin, which is going to be this ISO one. Copy, right click and press enter. There we go. So we have got it all verified. As you can see, the signature made on the September 15, 2024. It is a good signature from Dolphin Oracle. Yeah, everything's good. We got it verified for integrity and authenticity. And you can go ahead and check the GPG version. So just type GPG space 2 dashes version. So it shows you the GPG version.
Whew, that was a lot of fun. I bet you learned something new today. Well, using PowerShell could be interesting, right? Anyway, once we got it all checked for integrity and authenticity, now we can go ahead and proceed to the third step. And the third step is going to be actually flashing it on the USB drive. So like I said in the beginning, you can have a 4 GB USB drive minimum because we need to flash like a 3 GB file on it. So 4 GB would be the minimum, but having 8 GB would be better. And if you want to create it with persistence so that you can save files on it, I would recommend getting at least 16 GB. This way you can allocate some space for system files and some files that you're gonna download or save on this USB drive. So 16 GB would be plenty, but I'm gonna be using 64 GB. This way it might sound like an overkill, but if you're actually planning to use it all the time, this will be great because you can save a lot of files to it. Anyway, let's go ahead and proceed with flashing the ISO using Rufus, and I'm gonna explain it to you in details so that you know what each option is used for. Alright, let's do that.
Alright, so the next step would be to make a bootable USB drive, and MX Linux is suggesting to use Rufus. While you can use other programs that can flash ISO onto the USB drive, Rufus is definitely one of the best. And according to the Max Linux team, this program will allow for the advanced live features available to MX Linux. So we're gonna try that one. So go ahead and click on this link here. It will take you to the Rufus website. We want to download it from the official website. They do have a portable one, and I do like this portable one. You can also use the standard one. That's going to be an installer. So you can install it on your computer operating system permanently, and then you can use it anytime you want it. But I'm just going to download the portable one. And also you can choose for your platform, the Windows 64-bit, Windows 32-bit, and Windows ARM 64. They have already got it covered. That's a pretty new platform, but they're already caught up. So let's go ahead and download this portable one and save it. Then go ahead and click on it. There we go. So this is the program. Okay, let's go ahead and flash the ISO onto the USB stick. Just insert the USB stick that you would like to use to flash the ISO on. When you start Rufus, the first field you gotta choose your device, and in this case, it's gonna be your USB drive. I got a 64 GB. Then click select to choose the image, the one that you have downloaded. Right now I have this MX23.4, so just choose it and click open, and it will automatically fill up some fields. For the boot selection, it has already selected this ISO. As you can see, when you create a bootable USB drive with persistence, it means that changes you make while running the live session, such as installed software, files, or system settings, will be saved across reboots. This allows you to use the USB drive similarly to a regular OS installation, retaining your changes and data even after restarting your computer. So this will be excellent if you plan to use this OS on the USB drive and not simply to install MX Linux on your PC or laptop. The persistent partition is the section of the USB drive dedicated to storing these changes. Without persistence, any data or changes made during a live session would be lost after rebooting. Since I have a 64 GB USB drive, I can dedicate quite a lot of space for persistence. Usually 8 GB or more is ideal if you plan to use the live USB as a portable OS with regular updates, more software, and significant data storage. So I will actually give it 50 GB. This way I can save files on it, and it will not remove them if I shut down the USB drive. Okay, now this step is very important, the partitioning scheme. You can choose between MBR or the master boot record and GPT, which is the GUID partition table. If you plan to work on both older BIOS systems and newer UEFI systems that has a CSM module and legacy support, then you should choose MBR. It will work on target systems with BIOS and UEFI. But if you're planning to use it only on the newer machines that only has UEFI, you can choose GPT. As you can see, there is no selection. It will not work on older machines. So I would suggest you choose MBR. This will make sure that it will work on older machines with BIOS and as well as on the newer machines with UEFI systems that also has compatibility support module. And most newer computers, they do have the compatibility support module, so you should be okay. There are a few options you can choose for advanced drive properties. First one is list USB hard drives. This option allows Rufus to display not only standard USB flash drives, but also external USB hard drives and SSDs. But be very careful when selecting this option, as choosing the wrong drive could lead to formatting and data loss on the external drive you didn't intend to use. So be extra careful with this. Unless you install it on the external SSD, don't highlight this option, but if you're planning to install it on the external SSD instead of regular flash drive, you need to highlight it. The second option, add fixes to old BIOSes. This option adds compatibility tweaks that help older BIOS systems recognize and boot from the USB drive properly. It creates a small extra partition that some older BIOSes require to boot properly. So for example, if you're planning to use it on a very old machine, like let's say 15 years old, I would suggest you highlight this option as it will allow it to boot on older computers. And align means it ensures the partition on the USB are aligned in the way that older BIOSes can read them without issues. So if you plan to use the bootable USB on older computer with legacy BIOS that might struggle to boot from a modern drive setup, this option can improve compatibility. The drawback is that it might slightly reduce the space available for your persistence or main partition, but this is usually minimal. So I would just add it to be safe depending what computer you're going to be using it on. And the last option is going to be enable runtime UEFI media validation. This enables Rufus to check the created UEFI bootable media at runtime to ensure it is valid and hasn't been corrupted during the creation process. This is extremely helpful. You want to make sure that it has been flashed correctly, so a little bit extra time it takes to create the bootable drive due to the validation process, but it provides you peace of mind. So let's go ahead and check it as well. It is useful for UEFI systems to ensure that the boot media is reliable and can boot without errors. It adds an extra layer of verification, confirming that the bootable drive will work as intended before you attempt to use it. Then for the volume label, you can call it whatever you like. Let's just leave it as MX Live. I'm totally fine with that, but you can call it whatever you like. Now the file system, there are two options. You can either use it as large FAT32, which is set by default, or use NTFS. The FAT32 is more universally compatible, especially with both older BIOS systems and UEFI systems, but it has a file limit of 4 GB, meaning any single file larger than 4 GB cannot be stored on the USB drive. It is ideal for creating bootable USBs that need to work on a wide range of systems and for Linux ISOs where individual file sizes are below 4 GB. The NTFS, on the other hand, is supported by most modern UEFI systems, but not as universally compatible with older BIOS systems. Some older computers may not boot from an NTFS formatted drive without specific BIOS support, but it supports larger file sizes greater than 4 GB, making it suitable for ISOs that contain large files. So you can decide what you want to do. Let's just choose it large FAT32. I'm fine with that. Then for the cluster size, we'll just leave it at 32 KB because it's a balanced option. It offers a good balance between disk space efficiency and read-write performance. It's a solid choice for general use. And the last few options here for advanced format options, you can check to create extended label and icon files. This option adds an auto-run ENF file and a custom icon to the USB drive. It is useful if you want to personalize your USB drive and make it stand out visually. That's an icon that will appear for the USB drive in File Explorer, so we can just checkmark it for sure. Then the check device for bad blocks means that Rufus is gonna scan the USB drive for bad sectors. That means that Rufus will perform a read test on the USB drive to identify if there are any problematic sectors. If any are found, it marks them as unusable so that data isn't written to those parts. It is recommended if you're using an older or previously unreliable USB drive and you want to ensure its integrity before creating a bootable drive. But since I'm gonna create it on a brand new USB drive, I will skip this checkmark. Alright, we have went through all the options. Now, as you can see, the status is ready. Let's go ahead and click start, and it will start flashing the ISO on the USB stick. But before you do that, make sure there is no data that you need on the USB stick. as it will destroy any data on this USB drive and you will lose it forever. So make sure if you're using any USB stick with some files that you might need to copy them before proceeding. Otherwise, they will be all gone and most likely you will not be able to recover them. So don't do that. But since I have a brand new USB drive, I'll just click start and the process will start. You might see this message from Rufus that indicates that the ISO you selected contains an UEFI bootloader that has been marked as revoked by certain UEFI firmware. This can happen even if the ISO image was obtained from an official and reputable source and has been verified for integrity and authenticity, just as we did. UEFI Secure Boot works by checking bootloader certificates against a database of trusted certificates. If a bootloader certificate has been compromised or is no longer deemed secure, it may be revoked. This can cause UEFI firmware to block it from booting, resulting in a secure violation screen. So when booting from this USB drive, we're gonna need to disable Secure Boot in the UEFI BIOS settings. This allows the bootloader to run without triggering a security violation. So we're gonna have to do that. Overall, the security boot is a security feature designed to protect system from boot time malware. But because we're confident that the ISO is from a trusted source and it has been verified, disabling Secure Boot temporarily should allow us to proceed with the installation. Just press OK. Okay, so we got another message that says this image uses GRUB 206-13, but the application only includes the installation files for GRUB 212. It offers us to connect to the internet and attempt to download the GRUB 206.13. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Press yes. It will download. Okay. Now it says this image uses syslinux 603, but this application only includes the installation files for syslinux 604. A new version not available. Okay. So select yes to connect to the internet and download these files. Let's do that. All right, and it just warns us once again it will destroy all the data, and we just click OK. And it will flash the ISO on the USB stick. And while it's working, I would like to share a little bit information about MX Linux. MX Linux is known for being user-friendly and straightforward, making it an excellent option for both new and seasoned Linux users. The installation process is easy. One of MX Linux's standout features is its suite for custom MX tool, designed to simplify various system management tasks. For instance, the MX Snapshot tool allows users to create personalized ISO images of their current system setup. This is perfect for creating backups or even sharing custom configurations with others. This is what I was doing with the Acronis Disk Director on my Windows, but MX Linux already has it pre-installed in their OS system, which is super helpful. Okay, so it's finally ready and we have got it finished. So we can close Rufus and remove the USB drive. Make sure to safely remove the USB drive.
Well, there we go. Finally, we got the ISO flashed on this USB drive. Now we need to get our computer. It could be a PC or a laptop. You can install it on the same computer that you used to flash the ISO, or you can use it on any other computer. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure if you plan to install it on the same computer where you flashed the ISO on the USB drive, it will remove everything from the system drive. So make sure you don't need it before you proceed, otherwise it will remove everything. It will just wipe out the whole disk and install operating system on it. First of all, we're gonna do a live boot, make sure it's running perfectly, and after that we're gonna do a complete clean installation. Alright, well, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, go ahead and insert the USB drive with the flashed MX Linux on it to the PC or laptop that you want to install MX Linux on, power on the computer, and when it starts launching, press a dedicated key to enter BIOS or UEFI settings. Usually it is an F2 key, but it could be different depending on your laptop manufacturer. So I'm going to put a list of all possible keys on the screen, so just choose the one that is designed for your computer. Then enter the password for your BIOS if it's necessary. Then in the BIOS, go to the boot section. If you have UEFI, it might be located a little bit different, but just look for the similar section. And where it says secure boot, as you can see, it is enabled. Make sure to disable it. Just press enter and use the arrow keys to disable and then press enter again. Now, as you can see, secure boot is disabled. And press F10 to exit and save the settings. And then just press enter. Now it should start loading from the USB drive. After you install MX Linux on the computer, you can go back to the BIOS settings and enable secure boot again, but meantime for the installation you need to disable it. If you want to enable persistence on this USB drive, because by default no persistence is enabled, which means that the session will entirely run in RAM and all changes will be lost upon reboot. You need to go to the advanced options, then go to persistence option, and here you can choose a few different options to choose from. Let's quickly go through these options. Normally the first option would fit for most users, Persist All, which stores the root file system in RAM and the home directory on a persistent device. It's ideal for users who want a mix of speed, using RAM for system operations, and persistent storage for user data. Then Persist Root means both root and home are stored in RAM. It is suitable for temporary sessions where changes to both system and user data are discarded after reboot. It is faster but no data are saved. Then Persist Static. The root and home are stored separately on a persistent device. It allows changes to both system files and user files to be saved. Then pstatic root combines root and home folder on a single persistent storage. It's useful for saving changes to both the system and user data in one location. Then persist home. In this mode, only the home directory is stored on a persistent device. The root is in RAM. It saves user data such as documents, settings, but discards system settings. The frugal modes are similar to persistence mode, but are designed for installations where the entire live system is copied to a device like a hard drive or USB stick instead of running directly from the ISO. As you can see, the frugal settings are pretty similar. So the key differences would be that the persist operates directly from the ISO loaded on the USB drive. It saves changes to a persistent storage if enabled, and frugal copies the live system entirely to a device for faster access, but requires more setup and can be more efficient than running directly from the ISO. I would just choose Persist All and that should be good, and then it would save the changes both to the operating system and to the user's files such as documents, so it will be very nice. After that, go to Save Options and choose GRUB Save Options and press enter. Now if we go back to the menu and then go to Advanced Settings, as you can see, the Persist All is already saved. So we can go ahead and start using this live USB. So from this menu, we need to choose the first prompt, the MX-23.4. Just press enter. There we go, it starts to load. There we go, so it has loaded and we are connected to the internet right away. As you can see, we also get in the welcome screen where you can read about MX Linux. There is a user guide, there is some question and answers, tools, and more. So you can look through it, but we're just gonna close it right now. So there you have it. This is a live boot for MX Linux, and we can use it as it is on pretty much any computer. So if you want to explore it, that's fine. There are already pre-installed tools, as you can see. If you go through the graphics, there's Office, Document Scanner, there are even some games, there's Internet Browser, multimedia, and more. So you can go ahead and explore it if you wish. But we're gonna continue with installing it on the computer permanently. So for that, you just gotta click on the installer, just double click, and it's gonna start preparing for the installation. So here's your keyboard setting. If you wish to change the keyboard before you proceed, just click on change keyboard settings. If you want to keep English keyboard, just press next. In this step, select type of installation. We will just go with a regular install using the entire disk. This will basically use the whole disk to install MX Linux, but be cautious, it will format it and delete all the information from that disk. So if you have, for example, an existing operating system, or if you have any documents, files on the disk, make sure to copy it before you proceed, because if you proceed without copying them, it will format the drive and delete all the files. So you won't be able to recover them. So make sure to copy it before you proceed. There's also another option to customize disk layout. This is a bit more complex way to install it. We're not going to discuss it in this video. After you choose regular install using the entire disk, press next. And as you can see, it even warns you here that the MX Linux installer will now perform the requested actions. These actions cannot be undone. Do you want to continue? And it says format and use the entire disk. So yes, we're going to do that, but like I said, make sure to copy any files that you need before you proceed, and then press start. It's going to start copying files and installing them, so it will take a few minutes. And while it's working, I would like to share a little bit information about MX Linux. MX Linux is also lightweight and highly optimized for speed and responsiveness, which is another great feature. It performs well on older hardware, which makes it a go-to choice for users looking to breathe new life into older PCs or laptops. This efficiency, though, doesn't come at the cost of functionality, making it a practical option for users who want a snappy system without compromising on essential features. MX Linux also allows users to customize their environment to their liking, from changing the desktop appearance to choosing which applications to install. It gives users control over their computing experience. Advanced users can tweak deeper settings, and even those new to Linux will find enough out-of-the-box functionality to get started without feeling overwhelmed. Also, MX Linux benefits from a dedicated and active community that provides extensive documentation and support. And this is a key feature about Linux. Everybody tries to help each other, whether you're troubleshooting or looking for tips to maximize your productivity. The community forums and tutorials are great resources. This sense of community can be reassuring for newcomers who might have questions as they adapt to a new system. Okay, so we have got to the point where we need to set up the computer name, and let's just call it Pulsar. For the computer's domain, you can just leave it as is. You probably won't need it. Then for Samba server for MS networking, if you plan to share some of your directories or printer with a local computer that is running Windows or Mac OS, you need to enable it. Let's just highlight it and then press next. Over here, you need to choose the localization defaults. Depending where you are or depending on what you like to put, there are actually lots of different localization. So let's just put this, for example. Then you're going to configure clock, the time zone where you are, your continent, your city, whatever, that works good. You can choose the format, and then system clock uses local time. So there are some advanced settings if you want to check them out as well, but we're not going to really look too much through them. So then press next. Then over here for the default user login name, let's just call Pulsar again. Then you gotta set the password and repeat the password again. For the root administrator, you gotta put the root password. So just highlight this tick over here and set the root password and enter it again. You can choose different passwords if you like, or just keep the same password. As you can see, I put a pretty weak password, but I don't care. It's just a demonstration right now. So I like to choose auto login so I don't have to enter the password every time I turn on the computer. So we're just going to keep auto login and save live desktop changes. I'm not going to save them, so press next. There you go. So it has continued. The installation is almost complete. Almost there, yeah. Okay, perfect. There we go. So the installation is complete. We can go ahead and reboot the system. If this checkmark is enabled, just click finish and it will automatically reboot. You can go ahead and remove the USB drive. So now it will start booting not from the USB drive, but actually from your computer. Before you start launching the computer, we get in the welcome screen, so go ahead and press MX23.4 Libretto, press enter, and it should start loading. Well, there we go. Here is MX Linux, and it is installed on the computer, so we can go ahead and start using it. So right now it's not running from the USB drive, but rather it is running from the computer. So you can go ahead and start exploring it, whatever you like, changing all the settings that you like.
Well, that's it. MX Linux is installed on your computer, so now you can continue to explore its features and customize the way you want it. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you like it, please support with a like. If you're new to the channel, please take a second to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new upcoming Linux videos. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please drop them down in the comment section below. And if you like this content and would like to support this channel, please check out the links in the description. But this is it for today. I hope you have a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.